Welcome to Wisdom of the World. Today I'm going to tell a story from the Netherlands, where I am right now. It is a story about when you're not feeling very happy and you're rude to someone. The story is called The Woman with the 366 Babies, and it goes like this. Once upon a time, a long time ago, in the Netherlands, there was a beautiful sort of lake. It was called the Vijver, the lake. And around it was a beautiful forest with lots of oak trees and beech trees and birch trees. And there was a lot of game. And there were a lot of fish in the lake and a lot of game in the forest. So a lot of people came there to hunt and to fish. It was actually quite a rich area of the country. So the lord of the area decided to build a big mansion there right next to the lake. And he built a big hedge around it. And that place is still there, still today. He called the hedge, and the hedge in the Netherlands language is called the Haag. It's called the Hague. And a lot of well-to-do people came to live in that town. And one of those people that lived close to the lake was a count and his countess' wife. And the wife was very unhappy because she could not have children. And although everybody expected her to have some children, and they had a whole household and clothes were made and blah, 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 the whole thingamadoo, but no kids. And so when at a certain moment a beggar lady came by with 2 babies and said, please have some food for my babies or for me, then the lady just got very angry. She was very unhappy herself, and she got very rude to that lady and said, those cannot be your children, how can you? And they started to argue. And finally she had some people literally kick that poor beggar lady out. And the beggar lady started to scream and it says, I wish, and it was the 3rd of January, that you will have as many children to feed one day as there are days in the year. Now she meant it was the 3rd of January, only 3 days. So she meant it, may you have 3 days born together at once, and may you have to feed them. But sometimes later, the prophecy, or the curse, if you wish, of that bigger lady actually came true. And the lady started to give birth, and they were not just 1 baby, not just 2 babies, no. More and more and more and more babies, and each of them was no bigger than this, no bigger than a mouse. And it kept on going on, and they couldn't cope up with so many. And in the end, it turned out there would be 366. Now that year was a leap year, so there were 366 days in that year. Now, when the bishop heard of this, and also the count was a very religious man, he says, these babies must be baptized immediately. So there was a whole procession that went from the count's palace to the church. Just first the count, and then, his arms bearer and the whole thing, all beautifully dressed up in their best clothes, went. And then came on big trays. There were 30 ladies in waiting, or handmaids as they were called in those days, which had all the babies on trays carrying them. So they went in a big procession from the palace to the church. And when they finally came into the church, the bishop himself was there to christen them. And I don't know if you know, but if you are baptized, then a pitcher of water is poured over you and you are welcomed into the church. But there were 366 babies to take care of. And they didn't even know how to name them because they totally got mixed up in the beginning when they started naming them Harry and John and Pete and Klaas and all that kind of stuff. They had no idea who was who. So in the end, they decided that they would just name all the babies John and all the women, all the girls, the boys John and the girls Elizabeth, or in Dutch, Jan and Lisbeth. And the bishop, in the beginning, he was still just, baptizing all the babies, but then later he just did it. He just had a sort of a big brush and he just sort of sprinkled some water over them because that was already as much as he could do. He was also an old man. Now, even one of the ladies who was carrying a tray tripped because there was something on the floor that was sticking out, and she tripped and she was afraid that she would have killed all the babies, but no, because they were caught up in the coat of a lady walking in front of them, so they were okay. But I don't know whether it was the cold of the day, or the dampness of the church, or the fact that there was not enough milk for all these babies, or not enough maids, mothers to take care of them. But by the time the sun had set, all those babies were gone. They died. Now, you can imagine this became a huge story, and all those babies were buried somewhere on the land of the Count. The prophecy of the beggar lady had come true. So I guess the moral of the story is, if you're unhappy, try to control yourself. Don't be rude. If you have any comments or suggestions for another story, do let me know. Thank you.